Yep, here we are again. Back to this. Okay. So while everything so far seems to have made it a little better, this must be a compounding problem. Let me turn that off. Because there's still a slight issue, and the BLM and the integer of it are still high. So it's still adding fuel. There is no vacuum leak. It'll run now, but it doesn't run perfect. So I'm wondering if maybe I've got an injector issue, or injectors issue, because this thing did have garbage fuel in it when I got it. The fuel filter had a lot of rust and crap in it. So you can see I've already pulled off the, turn the light back on here, pulled the, camera's in the way, the boot, which obviously goes there. Started loosening some bolts on the upper plenum, pulled off a vacuum line, once again shadow, that's awesome, good times right there. Let me just move over here. So we got that right there. This goes to your booster. This goes to the intake here and map sensor. Took that off. You got a vacuum line here. Popped to that. There's a mosquito biting me. That's pretty awesome. And I pulled the two screws. There's one here and then one straight across from that on the throttle body. I think I'm going to try to leave the throttle body on the car. I may be able to get away with that. If not, then I'll take it off. But I got a couple cables and then the coolant lines. To keep it from like frosting over when the cold weather. So let me get I might be able to, while we're doing this, pop a couple of these off and make some noise, right? Yeah, good times. As you can see, or not, because there's an awesome shadow because of my headlight here, I may have broke the head of that one off, and like an idiot, oh, look at all the stuff in there. Yeah, you can't see it. I'll have to zoom in after we get it out. I think there's part of an easy out jammed in there too, so that one's gonna be real fun to get out. I do have another bolt, so I'm not worried about that. Ooh, easy there, buddy, easy. My battery finally going low on a good old snap-on. I mean, I haven't charged it in a year. Can't imagine why it would be getting weak. Man, that thing makes noise. Okay. It is nice that all the rest of these came like right out with no problem. Why that one didn't do that, I don't know. They're still in decent shape. This plenum needs to be painted anyway. It kind of looks like crap. Okay, put those in the dish. Oh, this one I might not have taken out all the way. It's okay, we got it. These bolts are all the same, which makes putting them back in easy. It's mainly that small one that decided to say, not today. Okay, is that everything? Maybe, I don't know. I guess we'll find out, huh? Oh, I got this little guy here. A retainer for those two lines there, which are coolant lines. So I'm gonna have to, oh, excuse me again. Man, but one of them nights. I'll get a socket for that. And I think that's it. So let's grab a socket and let's get this bad boy off here. And there you go. It actually wasn't that bad. So there was one more vacuum line here. Bugs. That's what happens when you're working at night. That was directly under it. And then the EGR tube, I ended up cracking it loose here. I took it off. I didn't take it off before I took this off though. I took this out, snaked it through, and then took that off. But I want to clean this up. This bad boy needs to be refinished for sure. It's getting a little, oh, look at that, a big piece right there is coming off. Yeah, this is all, it's all peeling. It's got some good aluminum corrosion, so it needs to be stripped and redone, which is fine. I might even just take that middle intake off, which is this piece here. So this does not go all the way down and bolt to the head. This is actually a middle intake. So that'd be the upper plenum. This is a middle intake, and then your actual intake manifold's all the way at the bottom. But we want to get this fuel rail out because the injectors, if I can get it in there without getting 47 shadows, one there, one over here, and then you got two there, one over here. That seems a little more loose than I'd like it to be. Look at that. That was just barely hanging on there. Interesting. I may even get a hold of Fiero store. Oh, that's loose. Popped out of its little retainer. And order their metal line kit, which replaces all of these with metal vacuum lines. Yeah, see, this one's released too, so I wonder if someone's been in here before. Not sure where those two go. Which is possible. I mean, you know, it's a almost 40-year-old car. What are you gonna do? It's definitely had some stuff happening to it. So I think we'll call it a night for tonight. This is your cold start valve that feeds the cold start valve into the bottom of the actual intake. It runs from here all the way down. Pressure regulator, fuel block, fuel rail. So I'm gonna get these out, check these. I might send these injectors off just to see if maybe I can have them flow tested. I mean, I've got new ones anyway, so the best thing to do here is just to put the new ones in it, and then I'll try to see what the condition of these was in. Man, look at this thing, it's pretty dirty, you know. Yeah, it's only a couple years of grime and garbage. I did have to leave, or I didn't have to, but I did end up leaving the throttle body, and I took this one spark plug wire off. These two I just kind of moved out of the way, but I had to pull the one. Other than that, this has probably been a 20-minute ordeal, and half of that time was running back and forth, getting different size sockets and stuff. 10 millimeter, 8 millimeter. I'm pretty sure my EGR tube here did not have the original nuts, which are somewhere in my thing. Yeah, right here. I don't think these are original. These are 3/8. I guess they could be, but it just doesn't seem like they would be, because everything else has been a 10. These are 12.10s. You have to have a 12 on those, and you have to have a 12 on this little guy here, which is an 8. And that was goes to the top of the plenum, comes down and retains this here. There's also one bolt through here that retains this bracket to hold, once again, these coolant lines here that go over to the throttle body, which I know some guys like to bypass it and stuff. I'm gonna leave them. I don't drive the car in cold weather anyway, but I'm just gonna leave them. No reason to reinvent the wheel here. I think that's about it for now, though. Yeah, see, it's a little bit of wetness down there. I may end up just pulling the middle intake and popping these valve covers. That might be the easiest thing to do. And just change valve cover gaskets while I'm this far, and maybe even hit it with some engine degreaser, because it's looking a little grimy up in here. And I'm not doing, you know, a concourse restoration or nothing. This is a driver, so maybe I'll do that. And tomorrow we'll get some high temp ceramic based paint for the plenum. I'll start stripping that, see if we can clean that up in here without using a blast cabinet, because I don't have one yet. That's next on the list of shop tools to procure at some point. So but yeah, that's where we're at so far. Stay tuned. Well, that was an ordeal. So you can see the fuel rail is now out. I got rags kind of covering all the holes, and it looks like, oh, everything's great, right? Yeah, well, look at this. Look at this disaster. You can see I kind of started to brush that up and chip some more of it off. I think I'm just going to put this in a blast cabinet and strip the whole thing. The hole has now been, obviously I can screw this out, so you can already figure that out, huh? Look at that. That's nice. Drilled that completely out from the backside, by the way. I punched out my my easy out that was jammed in there at the end of the easy out, and re-drilled it, retapped it. So now we are good. I'll put some anti-seize on all of those when I put them back in. This guy. So the rail isn't the problem. As you can see, there's some issues with the injectors. You got the caps missing off of a couple of them. There's an injector missing. This injector, if you can see that, the clip is mangled because this one, the O-ring was so hardened, it wouldn't let loose at all. So the rail came out, but it actually, this had less resistance than the O-ring. Also, the end of this is missing. I had to use, and it's probably still in the car. Somewhere in the car. Maybe not. No, I put it away. So I've got a really long pry bar. It's probably 2.5, 3 feet long, and that's what I had to use to get this thing out. I sprayed this thing down. I tried to soften it, and actually there's a mark right there from where the pry bar slipped. But these aren't going back in anyway. Yeah, the ends of the injectors, most of them popped off. And the O-rings. These things are crunchy as heck, and they're all rock hard. So I gotta get these off of here. I'm obviously not even gonna bother flow bench testing them. I'm just gonna put new ones in it because these things are in such poor shape. I'll be lucky if I can even get them back together and functioning. This is gonna go in a blast cabinet. Like I said, bottom's not too bad. But yeah, as I started chipping it, it just kept going and going and going, and I hit it with a wire wheel, and that's what broke loose so far. So that's where we're at with that. And here, yeah, my flashlight is around here. Not how much you need to see. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I don't want to pull the rags out, but I cleaned everything in there. Everything came off really easy. These two fuel lines weren't too cranked. Oh, I got an O-ring. I might want to replace those two. Yeah, I'm going to replace those two. This one was the one I thought was going to be a problem, was the cold start valve, and it popped loose with no issue whatsoever. So awesome. Good news. I did have to pull the harness out of the way. So I did unplug. This flashlight's not helping me now, is it? I did have to unplug this, which runs through down under here and sits here. So I did unplug that just so I could pull the harness off of the fuel rail. It was a lot easier that way. I didn't have to kind of fight anything. And then once I finally got the wheel to come up, it came up. So the next thing is to probably pull this middle intake off so I can get the valve covers off. But I'm not going to do that right now, even though I probably should. Yeah. Okay, so that's the update for this. With the magic of editing, we'll be back here in a minute, probably with this intake off and with the plenum cleaned up. Because I definitely want to get this thing cleaned, and I want to kind of polish this top again. It'll still be red in there, but I want to polish these rails just to make it look decent again. I have all new bolts, but this was just the one that I wanted to make sure was going to have no issues there. And nope, it doesn't. It's in good shape. So that's where we're at with Project Pegasus here, and it's revamping of the upper engine. Maybe I can get this this goofy starting or fuel trim issue to go away, because there were no vacuum leaks. I don't know how long I left that smoke machine plugged in, but it was coming out of the air cleaner is how long I left it in there. It wouldn't come out anywhere else, but it was popping out of the air cleaner. So everything was completely full of smoke. Other than that, nothing else. So I guess we'll get on that, and we'll see if we can get it back together. Yeah, I know, it's still apart. Probably going to put this all in one video instead of the couple that I've now got to do it in, because it's a couple days later. So yeah, still apart there. But check this out. Check out the progress on that guy. Not bad, huh? So I had to take it because it looked horrible. So I tossed it in my blast cabinet. I stripped the whole thing, which, by the way, is not easy to do. I still got to do this. I mean, this stuff is really thick. This powder coating they put on from the factory is really thick. So I got to strip this still. I went over it real quick just to kind of burn off the rest of some media. But yeah, obviously it's still got to get done. But I stripped this thing all the way down. Painted the whole thing with a high temp ceramic paint. Let it cure for a day, and it came out pretty good. And of course, this was all red. I didn't mask it. So I just took some 600 grade. Learn how to speak. Words are tough, folks. So put it on a palm sander, 600 grit on a palm sander, and it just kept going back and forth. And yeah, it left little marks in it. So then I went over it with a block and some sandpaper wet, and I hit it again. And yeah, there's still some like in the grooves or in the pits of the aluminum. There's still some in there, and I could spend some more time to smooth and polish this out. But I really got to get this thing out of the garage because unfortunately it's getting cold out. And I got to put something else in here. But it's not bad. It's way better than it was from the factory. These grooves or these pits were really deep. Actually, you can kind of see how grainy the aluminum really is. The rough cast of the aluminum. It's pretty rough. So, and even up here, it's pretty rough. So I've actually polished it out a little bit with the 6, and then I just put the oil grommet back in, which is actually surprisingly in great shape. I do have the original oil cap. I'll put that back in. I do need to get valve cover gaskets because this kit, which gives me the intake and valve covers and everything basically from the intake up, is a great kit, but the gaskets that come with it are cork, and I'm not a huge fan of cork, so I'm going to go get the Felpro, the rubber permadries, and fit those inside this cover. And put that back on. As you can see, I don't know if I really said much about this, but I got that stripped. It was just grimy. It wasn't really messed up or anything. It was just kind of covered in road funk from, you know, from 87 till now. So, and then I still got to do this upper plenum. Just gotta get that set there. So, I got the new injectors. I got those. These are in really rough shape, but that's okay. I'm gonna clean this off too. I'll clean the fuel rail off, and then we'll get this bad boy assembled and back on the road again, because I've got to do that. It's got to get out of here. Too many other things going on, as always. I think I say that in every video, actually. But see, it's pretty clean. I mean, the inside of the engine was real. I did not clean the inside of it. There's no sludge, no nothing. So it's in pretty good shape. It's just been sitting for way too long. It's been hasn't been driven. You know, it's only got 120,000 miles, I think, on it. 122, something like that. So it's spent most of its time just kind of sitting outside and being neglected. So now's the time to, well, I got this apart to make it run right with the injectors, and look what this project turned into. It's got a rough running check engine light issue every now and then, and now it's this. So, you know, one thing always leads to another. I could have just left the valve cover the way it was, put the injectors in and let it go, but no, we can't do that. So, might as well just clean this thing up a little bit, get it back together, and then we'll get back on that console there and some other stuff. So, yeah, let's get this cleaned up and get it back on the car. And there you have it. 99.8% of it is completely stripped. A couple little spots, as you can see, here and there, but not horrible. Now it's got obviously a texture, and this polish is completely gone, so I'll just do what I did with the valve cover, which actually came out really nice. This is nice and smooth here. Obviously, inside the grain, there's still a little bit of red paint, but I'll get that out with probably some mineral spirits or something. But the rest of it came out really good, and the other one's done. So I'm gonna get this thing done, get it prepped anyway, get it coated, let that completely cure, and then I'll go across the top of the fins and where the Fiero's embossed or recessed, so that I can make that look new again. But I think it looks pretty good, actually, considering this stuff is extremely hard to get off, I gotta say. GM did a really good job of powder coating these. It's some pretty heavy duty stuff. It's really thick. I'm gonna go back to red, obviously, put it back to stock, but let's go ahead and get to that. Okay, valve cover's on. Middle intake is on. Obviously, I put a bunch of rags in there and in the injector hole, so I don't want to get stuffs up inside the engine, because that would be bad. So I still have to change all of these over to the metal ones, which I have here from the Fiero store. So I'll get those on here, and then look at that guy. Didn't come out so bad, huh? Obviously, this needs to be polished off, which I'm going to start working on here in a couple minutes, but it's all cured. It's good to go. Matches, obviously, the valve cover. So let's get this done, and then I got to get the injectors and get all the rest of this stuff back in there. And there you have it. About 15 minutes of going over it with a sander, and obviously there's still a little in the grain, but I can get that out later. But that looks, 1,000 times better than it did. As you can see, I've got all the vacuum lines off. Only one broke, which was surprising. A little dark in here. But there they are, installed. They're not the easiest thing to install, I'll say. So if you're looking to buy these from the Fiero store, obviously the allure is that they're steel and they won't break. But trying to route all of these around everything is much harder because they're not flexible at all, and then trying to get these retainers back on is practically impossible because two of them are, I think, a little bit bigger diameter. I kind of forced them in there, but they went in. And then it puts, get this out of the way, it puts a little bit of stress here, which I'm not liking, so I may end up tweaking the bends here because I don't like it pulling up on my EGR valve. Solenoid, because everybody knows that that's unobtainium. I really don't want to have to go through the process of rebuilding another one, because that was not the funnest thing in the world to do. First sourcing one's a pain in the butt, and then rebuilding it. So yeah, but there it is. They're on. So I can turn that off now. Obviously this is coming along, so I need to get the fuel rail and the injectors, get the new injectors on the fuel rail, get the fuel rail installed, make sure everything's good there. Vacuum line, obviously. I got new rail O-rings and then the injectors, and then we're going to put that back on. So let's get on that. And fuel rail is in. Gotta say, not fun because of these metal lines. There's no flexibility at all, like I was saying. So getting this around it with all 6 injectors connected is a pain. I lubed all 6 injectors, both O-rings, with like a high temp grease. just very little, just to kind of lube it so they kind of popped in. They went into the fuel rail super easy, but of course putting them in the intake's a little tough because of the angles you're fighting. As it goes down, they want to kind of open up because of it's a 60-degree V6. So single fuel rail, 60-degree V6 equals fun times, kids. Remember that, fun times. So I got a headlight here. I wonder if that'll help. Ooh, nice shadow. Isn't that sweetness? Okay, well, that's in. 7th injector is in. Plugging these in is good times. These back ones didn't want to go in, so I loosened the fuel rail a little bit, which I actually have to retighten, and kind of moved it back just a tad. Plugged in the 3, and now I got to tighten these 2. And then it's going to be time to put said plenum back on. So let's do that. Okay, I got it all back together. Obviously, you can see that. I put anti-seize on every one of these bolts going back into the aluminum just to make sure there wasn't an issue. Like I was saying before, this one had snapped off. Actually, yeah, it's still sitting here. Here's the broken end of it that it snapped off, and I got stuck in there. So like I was talking about before, how I got that out. So got another bolt, we're good. But all of these now have got anti-seize on them. What else can I kind of say? So all these vacuum lines from the Fiero store, I don't want to bash them because I get it, but I cut them off here going to the EGR solenoid, if you can kind of see it going down into here, because it was putting an ungodly amount of stress pulling these plastic things up, and I could have kept tweaking and tweaking, but get rid of that. That probably shouldn't be hanging there. Putting a lot of stress on these, and I didn't want these to break, so I cut them off about here, and then just put a couple pieces of vacuum line, and then ran the original nylon ones back, and now there's enough flex in them, and this thing it's not pulling up on the EGR control solenoid anymore. Because once these are in, you can see they don't flex. They're very stiff, and there's just no movement in them at all of them. So making them fit under here before I put this on, as I was showing you before, they're just very stiff. They're hard to get in. The one that I did not use was the one going to the EGR. It does come with, or EGR, PCV. It does come with this one too, this real big one. But the bend in it was so far off from what it would have had to bend. And then trying to hook it around here and hook it to the bottom of this while you've got this kind of peeled up a little bit, because that's the only time obviously you can get to it. And hook it back on. It's really tough because there's no flex in it. This one was not broken. There's no cracks. It's still fairly pliable. So I just put this one back on. I still have the other one around here. I guess if anything ever happens, if I have to piece it or cut a piece off or whatever, I can still do that. But all of those are on now. I got all the garbage and goo that was out down there. But the new injectors are in. You can kind of see them right there. Got it all back together though. Right now it's still a little warm. I did start it. I let it get to operating temp, and it does seem to run a lot smoother. So that one cracked vacuum tube that was under here, I barely even touched it, and it was right around here. So I think it's one of the ones that went to the bottom of the throttle body, because there's 2 of them that go to the bottom of the throttle body that hook, and then they come around, and you can't see them here. They're ridiculous. One of those, I barely even touched it, and it just crumbled. So it was a good thing I had this all apart and was doing that anyway. So the combination of that, and then with a couple injectors with the nozzles being kind of messed up on the end, I think that kind of contributed to the issue I was having. Plus, what else did I do just recently? Oh, so this car and that car had a lot in common. And I don't just mean that they're both, ex-GM, I guess now they're both ex-GM, but GM employees coming together to build a sports car kind of thing. So, obviously John designed and built that one, or designed a lot of it. He didn't engineer it, but he did design it. But there is a tube on that engine that we call the tube of death that is under the plenum. That is basically a vacuum tube that just sticks into 2 O-rings. There's nothing holding it down, and it's flexible and it moves around. They always have an issue with leaking years down the road because those O-rings get dry and brittle and they leak. This one's got one exactly like that, directly down there, that goes into the bottom of the throttle body. And it just has a couple O-rings, and it just pushes in. So what we do in the DeLorean community is you'll put a little, the easiest way I find to make sure that it always seals, obviously put the O-rings in there, but put a little RTV on the end of that tube, let it kind of thicken up a little bit, kind of dry, then put it in. It'll seal up against the throttle body and give you an extra barrier in case of any issue when you're reassembling everything. And I did that with this too, because I had that issue with that car where it would have erratic idle, and once I did that, it's been fine ever since, and that was, I don't know how many years ago. Probably 6-7 years ago I did that, and it's been fine ever since. So just in case, I did it on this one too, but it's, I don't know if you can see, you can kind of see it down there. Well, not really. It's all the way straight down there, and it's a tube that just pushes into the very bottom of the throttle body with a couple of rings. And it's a vacuum line that goes from there down to the base intake. So it's like, I think it's the idle air bypass, actually, channel. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do that to this too. So it does seem to idle better. I think I do want to get a throttle cable because I just stretched a little bit. It's been like this since I've had it. But that's all done. I'm going to change this too. It's not worn out yet, but they have a tendency to get worn. They're fairly easy to change. But as you can see, the plenum and the valve cover came out pretty good. Obviously they match, and looks a heck of a lot better than it did. Now it makes the rest of the engine bay look kind of old. But there it is. Eventually I'll start getting this thing, get some body work and everything done on it and get it painted, because it clearly needs it. You know, it's been abused. Now the paint there. This car's, it's had a life for only 120,000 miles. But it's back on. It runs. Not hard to do. There is a chunk, in case anybody wants to know. Here it is. Now, that's the original powder coat. It's a piece that kind of came off. This was one of the ones I started to blast. So the color's not exact anymore. This actually might be a little bit lighter. Yeah, the bottom should be the same though. So you can kind of see, I'll just set that right there, how that matches. And I think it came out pretty good. So this is a ceramic brake caliper paint. That's all it is. I was going to re-powder coat it and thought, this stuff's pretty chemical resistant. It's a ceramic based paint. It's once it's cured, it's pretty hard. So, and obviously it's chemical resistant for brake fluid and stuff, so it should last. I know sanding it off the top of this was not the funnest thing in the world, but it came out pretty good, I think. I mean, you tell me. For as easy as it was, now stripping it was a pain in the butt. But yeah, I think this is another project wrapped up on the little plastic guy here, and we'll see what else we can get into. This one's taking a lot longer than I wanted it to do, because of course there's always stuff going on, and you know how it is. Look at that. I think that looks pretty good. It's time to wrap this bad boy up and get it back on the road, huh? Okay, well, I guess I will see you guys soon. And here we go. First test drive after the injectors and the vacuum lines and gaskets and various other stuffs. So far so good. Did fire right off. It does seem to idle a little smoother. It's not like jumping around as much as it used to, so, which, I mean, you know, when you have slight vacuum leaks and you've got two injectors that are having spray pattern issues, you'll have that kind of thing. But here we are. As you can see, we're rolling down the road here. So we'll keep an eye on it. I need to get my scan tool back out, throw the brick on it, and this ought to be interesting. You're doing construction here. We're going to put the brick on it. I'll take a look and see what the parameters say on it. Sorry, I'm kind of trying to pay attention to the road here. I can't trust anybody. And we'll see what it says. But it does seem to be running okay. I'm not going to say it's running flawless, because it is a 40-year-old car. But hey, I think this is about as good as we're going to get for right now. At least until springtime, and maybe I can do some other stuff. This is probably the last nice day I'm going to have. We got a bunch of nasty weather coming and snow and stuff, and I don't really want to deal with that, and this thing's not going to go out in that for sure. So, all right, I'll leave it there. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.